Ghana Means Business, brought to you by GOIL. GOIL, good energy.
Ghana Means Business. Your story, our message.
The ARB Apex Bank Limited is a mini central bank for the rural and community banks, RCBs. The bank was registered as a public limited liability company in January of 2000. It was granted a banking license in June 2001 and was admitted to the Bankers Clearinghouse as the 19th member in August of 2001. The vision of ARB Apex Bank is to remain the most effective and efficient service provider to RCBs. Recently, the Ghana Commodity Exchange (GCX) signed a memorandum of understanding with the ARB Apex Bank to help channel loans to farmers using their commodities deposited at GCX certified warehouses as collateral.
It is said that a businessman who does not have a banker is like a tree without roots. The question, therefore, is for the millions of Ghanaians in the informal sector, how do they get access to credit? Those who may not have collateral security, those who may not fall into the formal credit system, who lends to them. This morning, we are privileged. Indeed, we are honored to have two of the very best that Ghana has in rural and community banking share with us, educate us, give us a rare insight as to how lending is done in the informal sector. And here with us this morning, we have Mr. Atajemfi, the Chief Executive Officer of Asante Achim Rural Bank, and Alhaji Awudu Ibrahim, the General Manager of Besfa Rural Bank. Alhaji, let me start with you. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Nana.
Thank you so much for honoring us, coming all the way from Boko this morning to be with us. We are indeed grateful.
Thank you.
Ghana Means Business. Your story, our message.
Every now and again, GOIL makes good things happen. This time, GOIL has introduced Super XP Ron 95, a higher grade fuel loaded with additives and yet sold at the same price as normal fuel. GOIL Super XP Ron 95 enhances engine performance like never before. It maintains the engine by keeping it clean from carbon deposits. GOIL Super XP Ron 95 is designed to burn slowly and thus improves fuel economy, making you save money after several kilometers. GOIL Super XP Ron 95 gives you a smooth driving experience, that is, less vibrations. Fill up with GOIL Super XP Ron 95. Now there's no need to pay more for any higher grade fuel. GOIL has that sorted. GOIL, good energy.
Ghana Means Business. Your story, our message.
Alhaji, please share with us a brief introduction and background of who you are and some of your greatest achievements in the rural and community banking industry.
Thank you so much, Nana. I'm indeed honored to also be on this program.
Thank you.
I am a chartered accountant by training and profession and a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants Ghana for the past 9 years. I also hold an MBA in finance from university in India known as Sikkim Manipal University. I have been with the rural banking industry for 15 years now. I started my career as a clerk with Bulsa Community Bank, headquartered in Sandema in the Upper East region. I worked there for close to 14 years, and exactly a year ago, I moved to Besfa Rural Bank Limited, also in the Upper East region. My greatest achievement all this while, that's what has really been moving me, my ability to stay with somewhat the less privileged in our society, the people who are considered the lower income bracket within our level. That is the nature of the clientele that we serve. And we are dealing with over 60,000 customers. Anytime I wake up and I realize that this number of people depend on the good job that myself and my team members are doing as for their means of livelihood, I take delight in that, and that has been the motivation that has been keeping me over the years.
Thank you. Mr. Chajamfi, please share with us your deep experience, background, and some of the unique achievements you've made within the rural community banking industry. Please educate us this morning.
Thank you, Nana.
Thank you.
I'm most grateful for this program.
You're welcome.
I started banking at the tender age. By age 22, I was employed as a clerk at Suma Rural Bank.
Okay.
I worked hard to become the substantive manager after 4 years. Over the years, I grew Suma Rural Bank to establish 3 agencies together with the head office. I worked there for 17 years. Then I moved to Asante Rural Bank, where I've been there for the past 13 years. I took over the bank where there was no computerization. I had to computerize all the entire operations of the bank. Currently, we have 10 branches, and we are doing well. 3 in Kumasi. We have 1 at Agogo. Jansa is the head office. We have Jaso and Konongo. And all these branches are extremely doing well. I have a special skill in fraud detection and investigation. And so wherever I find myself, I try to bring internal controls to ensure that the operations of the bank are well grounded. And to this, the bank has achieved a lot. The deposits grew over the years from about 19 million to 47 million as I speak.
Wow. And
so I'm encouraged by the teamwork that have been with me, the board, the support, and everything is okay as I speak.
Dr. Jamfi, one of the core activities that you have at the Rural and Community Banks is to do with lending. Can you please share with us what you do through your credit administration, as in, are you always looking for collateral, as in somebody's house papers, deeds to his business, everything that is based on credit? How do you assess credit in the informal sector in places where perfection of deeds and titles may not be so easily accessible? What is the trade-off?
Thank you, Nana. Nana, you agree with me that in most of the local communities, getting the collateral is very difficult. So what we have done over the years for all the rural banks, one, we have what we call group loans, where the groups are jointly and severally held liable. Because if you ask individually for them to provide a collateral, a house, it will be difficult.
Yes.
So we group them, some in smaller groups, others in larger groups. And once we have them, we give them the facility. Then they are repaid. And it will interest you to know, Nana, that in the rural communities, they know themselves. Therefore, in getting this group set up, you invite those you trust, those you believe that if they don't pay or they are sure of paying. So once we get this thing, then the issue of collateral is out.
Okay.
This is notwithstanding that if we have people who have the denture, the lease, we also go in. And Nana, collateral is the last thing. Because if the business venture cannot repay the loan, why do you take the collateral? It becomes like, I want to give you money and then sell off your property. So the essential thing here is getting the business plan, making sure that this business can generate the cash flow, repay the facility, and then we can go in. And so in dealing with this collateral and all these things, what we do is, if there's no collateral, groups are held jointly and severally liable, and that makes it easier to administer the law.
Al-Haj,
Mana.
generally, what is the sectors that BESFA focuses on around your catchment area?
Thank you so much. Within our catchment area, the key sectors that we actually financed are first and foremost the agricultural sector. And over here, we are looking at all the actors within the agricultural value chain, of crop production, poultry, livestock, you name it. And so we are able to identify key players. So take, for example, the value chain of maize production. You have the smallholder farmers who would have to go into the production. Then we also have the input dealers who mostly would procure the input from their suppliers up here and then be able to supply to these farmers to be able to
That would be the
fertilizers, the improved seeds, and what have you. We have people like the tractor service operators that assist in clearing the land and plowing and other things for the farmers. Then we also have, most importantly, the aggregators who mostly will go to the farm gates and procure the produce after the harvesting season, and even sometimes to the processors. So all these actors are able to get financing through the bank, and so you are able to have a kind of 360 degrees financing of agribusiness around our area, and this cut across generally in the rural banking industry. Secondly, we also finance those into manufacturing at our local level, those who add value to this produce for local consumption and for export. Another sector that we have been actively playing is in the area of cottage industry.
Cottage industry.
Yes, please. And over the years, we have collaborated with MBSSI to be able to actually nurture and grow small businesses within our catchment area that are doing phenomenal.
So specifically like shea butter
and other areas within the local level.
Okay.
And so you have women groups or individual businesses that are able to come into this subsector, process some of these raw materials, and in the end, add value to it, which we use, and it makes life very easy for us. So that is also another sector that we finance. Take the transportation sector. The most of the commercial and private vehicles that we see around have been partly financed by rural banks nationwide. And that is also doing well when you look at our contribution to that sector, service sector as well, because on our portfolio, one product that usually take greater percentage of our portfolio has been salary loans, loans that we advance to civil and public sector workers, and it's also doing well. So clearly, we almost dealing with all the key sectors of the economy that is actually able to feed and also add to the GDP of our country.
Alhaj, what makes you decide that we want to spend maybe 50% of our deposits in the farming industry, and then maybe 25% in transport, and then the remaining 25 in cottage industries? Are there factors or evaluations that you do in the marketplace to educate you on the direction that you must take? And if so, how do you assess that?
Yeah, thank you very much. Indeed, there are factors. Key among them usually are regulatory factors. Okay. So you try to stay within what the law says. So for example, under Act 930, you cannot do beyond 10% of your net worth as a rural bank. If the loan is in form of an unsecured facility, 25% of your net worth for a secured facility. So principally, before you even set out to look at your allocations for the various sectors, that is at the back of your mind. Then we will look at the viability of the business and then the catchment area within which we operate. Certain sectors thrive within one sector, and it might be different at the other sector. So take, for example, that at the north, farming and agribusiness is our mainstay. Sure. And so largely, you find rural banks around that enclave allocate substantial percentage of their resources to promote and at least assist farmers, particularly during this time that we find ourselves. Thereafter, we look at the viability of the business, the potential of that investment to benefit, one, the client, two, the bank, three, the economy generally also comes to play. Thirdly, also maybe the season usually will determine the kind of funding that we normally would allocate, because certain activities are season-based or are seasonal. And so depending on the season you find ourselves, then you are guided by that, and then also you take decision in allocating funds accordingly. Amazing. So basically, these are normally the key factors that, we consider in the choice of where to invest funds at one point or the other within the sector.
Thank you. Mr. Tajemfi,
Yeah, no.
the issue of liquidity poses such a challenge to all banks, and I'm sure you are not an exception. Generally, how do you go about mobilizing deposits from the informal sector, the formal sector, government, the Apex Bank? Do you have a reliable and constant feed in terms of your liquidity to be able to meet the credit applications and requests that you would have on a daily basis? Please share with us how you go about it.
Thank you, Nana. A chunk of the loans that we give are derived from the deposit that we mobilize.
Okay.
And there's
So
a
deposit mobilization is very critical in your
very,
business.
very critical.
So how do you go about it?
What we do is, one, we have developed so many mechanisms to mobilize deposit.
Okay.
We have susu collectors who go around to petty traders at their marketplaces, at their workshops, to take daily deposit and are brought to the bank. In fact, with the assistant of ARB Apex Bank, now it is real time.
Oh, wow.
Once you deposit at the market, you have a text message confirming that so-and-so amount has been deposited and credited to your account. Then we also go to the communities and they educate them on the need to save with a rural bank. Mostly our approach is different from the Orthodox bank.
Absolutely.
We move to the communities, educate them, have a deba, meet with Nananum,
Wow.
and then inform them they need to save other than keeping the money under their pillows. So this we mobilize. And once you get this deposit, Bank of Ghana regulation says that you cannot disburse all the deposit. Keep a certain percentage as your reserves. Keep a certain percentage as your secondary reserve.
I would like to focus on that. Please, can you share with us the ratios?
We have what we call primary reserves.
Primary reserve. What is the
Primary reserve is a liquid cash that should be available at the rural bank at any particular time, and that is 8%.
8%. Okay.
Then you also have to keep 5% with the ARB Apex Bank, the mini central bank for the rural banks, making 13%. Then you also have to keep 30%, either in government securities or bonds. All these measures is guiding the rural bank such that once there's a rush on you, you can have enough liquidity.
That's one side of it, Mr. Tajemfi. The other side too is, do you think a relaxation of the liquidity requirements by the regulators will also free up additional liquidity to the RCBs for them to be able to even go beyond their mandate and do better with their lending? What do you think about that?
Nana, I agree with you, especially with the secondary reserves.
Is it really necessary? I mean, those are some of the key issues that I would like us to look
Nana,
at.
I wouldn't say it is not necessary. But maybe the percentage can come down because recently what happened, most of the customers were rushing to the banks for their money. What happened in the banking industry? Right. So assuming you don't have a buffer, where do you run to? So I wouldn't say it's not necessary, but the percentage can come down so that we can have more loanable funds to advance it to our customers. Then you also maintain those secondary reserves to earn an income and then also meeting the regulatory requirements.
Okay.
Once you are unable to get all your loanable funds from this deposit, then you can apply to ARB Apex Bank and then you can also take a loan. Sometimes we also get government interventions. From years back, around 1993-94, we were having poverty alleviation fund, which were channeled through the rural banks for online disbursement to the farmers, to communities, cottage industry, those who went to batik tie and dye, kente weaving, oil extraction. And so the rural banks were spearheading this poverty alleviation fund. Again, some donors we also route some credit through ARB Apex Bank, and then we also lend it.
So you have a direct impact in the informal sector.
Very well, Nana. Without the rural banks, Nana, I can assure you, we wouldn't have what we are witnessing today, because we believe that most of the people are living in the local communities.
Absolutely.
How do we improve their income level so that they can also come up? The rural banks came in to fill this gap, and we have remained resilient, providing credit, providing education. Our loan, one of our loan products, microfinancing, we term it credit with education methodology.
Wow.
It is not just a matter of giving credit.
Please educate me on this.
Nana, credit savings with education methodology is where we go to the community, get the people, invite their counterpart, their colleagues to form a group. Then we pre-disbursement with education. How are you going to save given this amount of income? So bookkeeping, small income and expenditure. So that before you advance the loan to them, they know that if I get this money, this goes into repayment, this I will save for my child's school fees. And so this education has been very helpful in the rural area. So we don't just give money as a microfinance. That sector goes with education, and that has been really useful in the rural communities.
Excellent.
Every now and again, Goil makes good things happen. This time, Goil has introduced Super XP Ron 95, a higher grade fuel loaded with additives and yet sold at the same price as normal fuel. Goil Super XP Ron 95 enhances engine performance like never before. It maintains the engine by keeping it clean from carbon deposits. Goil Super XP Ron 95 is designed to burn slowly and thus improves fuel economy, making you save money after several kilometers. Goil Super XP Ron 95 gives you a smooth driving experience, that is, less vibrations. Fill up with Goil Super XP Ron 95. Now there's no need to pay more for any higher grade fuel. Goil has that sorted. Goil, good energy.
Ghana means business. Your story, our message.
Alhaj,
Nana.
loan pricing. How do you assess risk and how do you use that in determining the pricing of your loans?
Okay. Thank you so much, Nana. I think this is also very important. There is element of risk in everything that we do. But one thing that has been our strength has been the fact that we really have been with the people, and so we understand the terrain quite well. And so that alone is a way of mitigating the risk associated with the businesses that we undertake. But of course, our pricing mostly is looking at the risk associated with the project. So the higher the risk per our due diligence and assessment, then most likely the higher the price. Another most important consideration we looked at in the price build-up has always been the cost of funds, because we normally will mobilize and then intend to on-lend. So usually it is from the cost of funds that we are able to add a spread or a margin that we also make to be able to continuously stay in business and then perpetually being able to respond to the requests of our customers. And so generally, by the time if we are able to come out with a price that we think that it would help us stay in business and do some moderate profit, whilst also, helping the client, who for us is our main and key person in this business. Because once he remains in active business and able to have a growth or record growth consistently, then we have reason to also remain in our jobs. And so at the end of the day, we are able to strike a balance between the risk and the cost of capital, as well as the pricing of our loans. And at the end, we have always been happy, and our customers are always been happy. And indeed, we always strive to see to it that we are able to mobilize the cheapest of all the funds, because that way we are able to guarantee a lower interest rate compared to what will prevail in the market.
Excellent. It becomes a win-win situation.
Absolutely.
That is great.
Yeah.
What specific interventions do you think are needed, especially from government, to be able to ensure that we can sustain the rural and community banks to ensure that they have enough liquidity to serve our informal sector, the real pulse of Ghana, the real citizens of Ghana? What would you add to that?
In developing the rural communities, we need funds that are cheaper. But if you go by the standard that we have been using, definitely it cannot be cheap. And so if really we want the rural communities, the micro sector to grow, then our appeal is that the government should channel funds through the RCBs where the rates are very low. Because just like it was said that when you educate a woman, you educate a nation. once the rural communities, the local micro communities are developed, it will truncate to the national level. So if you have a cheaper money, we can let cheap. But if you have to borrow at a higher rate, then it will truncate to also the customer. So our appeal is that recently His Excellency the President announced that because of the COVID-19, some funds will be channeled through to boost businesses. Our appeal,
about 600 million.
600 million. Our request, our appeal is that if this money could be channeled to the RCBs, Nana, I can assure you that things will turn around. We have these micro businesses in the rural setup.
That's true.
Most of the big banks, the so-called big banks, are reluctant to go to the rural areas.
Sure.
And that is where we have this produce. Those in the cities, if you want to eat Nana, it has to be produced from the rural area.
Sure.
So if you are not supporting the people to produce, how then do you expect the economy to grow? So our plea is that we have people who are into batik tie and dye, we have kente weaving, we have gari processing, we have our market women. All these people are into income-generating activity. So once we get the cheaper money for them, and then the repayment is also given in more years, then there will be flexibility. Sometimes the stringent conditions attached to these loans makes it so difficult for us to relent.
Alhaj, on a party note, the Apex Bank continues to be the mini central bank to the rural and community banks. Their services, their contributions, their assistance to the rural and community banks are known to all. How should our Apex Bank, our mini central bank, our own, also rise to the occasion and assist us?
Okay, thank you very much. And I think this is quite essential. To be able to remain relevant would actually mean that we must also be able to remain resilient. And today, the world over, you cannot sustain your business without investing so much in IT and technology. Like you said, commercial banks would, whether we like it or not, penetrate our communities or where we have our branches. Why can't we also penetrate in their territory? And we can easily do this when we are able to have a strong and robust deployment of IT technology. And over the past years, I must commend ARB Apex Bank on behalf of the entire rural banking fraternity. They have been able to work hard and get us to rub shoulders with even the commercial banks. Talk of the ATMs, we do online banking, and we are collaborating with telcos to provide means of convenience of access of funds of our customers. Almost all the major products, IT-based products that the commercial banks are deploying, we are able to do that. Excellent. And so we only would hope that Apex Bank would also intensify their effort at that level. They should also collaborate with government, the Ministry of Finance, to be able to tap into most of these government intervention so that we can be able to access cheaper funds, like my CEO mentioned. Is very essential. When that comes, then we will begin, or the individuals and businesses that we serve, who are mainly the greater majority of our population, will begin to feel much more our relevance than what we have even been doing over the past 4 decades. And then we will be the live wire of majority of the teeming population of Ghana. And in the end, we are able to eradicate poverty and make this great nation the most successful one for every one of us. Thank you.
Folks, this program couldn't have been possible without the insightful professionalism of two of Ghana's finest professional, well-educated, and the finest gentlemen that we have on the land. Alhaji Awudu Ibrahim. Thank you. And Mr. Atajemfi. It's been a pleasure and a privilege having the two of you on this show. Folks, your favorite show, which is apolitical, factual, unbiased, and truly entertaining, Ghana Means Business, has been brought to you by your host, Nana Fredia Ajimai Pampo.